But when our fears are irrational, they can actually be very dangerous. And they instill a fear in anyone who's not in the cult. Hi, this is Jim Breon. Welcome to this YouTube channel where we discuss all things mental health. The topic of discussion today is something I've had people ask me about, and it's about something that's been more and more prevalent in our culture, and not just this culture in the United States, but in other countries as well. And that is how people can be indoctrinated into cult-like thinking. When you think of cults, you know, we think of religious cults like Jonestown, the tragedy that happened, you know, years ago, and cults like the Unification Church, the Moonies. But there's lots of different types of organizations and groups that indoctrinate people into cult-like thinking. It can be religious, could be political, could even be a self-help group, or even multi-level marketing schemes can indoctrinate people into cult-like beliefs. And one of the main ways that this happens is when people are induced phobias, when phobias and fears are induced into people, where somebody plays on another person's fears, and often they're nonsensical, and people end up believing things that really are kind of ridiculous, you know, to an outside person. But they're also really often fed lots of misinformation and disinformation. Especially in religious cults and political cults, there are often conspiracy theories that are permeated, and again, they play on people's fears and very much of otherizing people, that we're the good people and whoever they are, they're the bad people. So it really does play on people's fears, especially irrational fears like racist fears and sexist beliefs and classist, anytime that an other can be seen as a threat. You know, our fears are actually meant to protect us from danger, but when our fears are irrational, they can actually be very dangerous. Phobias are irrational fears that, you know, people wrongly believe that they're in danger because of something. The thing is that a person needs to use their critical thinking abilities, their prefrontal cortex, to think and reality test their own beliefs. And often people don't do that. We have to seek out trustworthy sources of information and not seek confirmation bias in rabbit holes of information that already confirm what we already believe, because that's the way that people in a culture are divided. And we see that strongly happening in our culture now. Where people are driven by algorithms to only see what they want to see, only be around people that are just like them. Technology, social media, and the algorithms are driving polarization, and they're feeding that cognitive bias. And people aren't really using their critical thinking abilities. Many of them are not. Often when it comes to indoctrinating people into cult ideologies, there's often an authoritarian figure. Some people can be strongly influenced by authority figures and the networks of people that are in their circle, they're believers. And people can be trained to believe nonsense, and quite often they do. Cult ideology appeals to in-group mentality, meaning we're the in-group, they're the out-group, and we have special knowledge that they're too dumb to recognize. Often people project onto a leader, or the leader will project onto them. And they instill a fear in anyone who's not in the cult. They really play on very black and white thinking. Everything is black hats and white hats, good versus evil. And again, there's the polarization. And once a person or a group believes that they're fighting for good and people that are not like us are evil, that's a recipe for violence and disaster. One thing that cult-like ideology uses are something called thought-terminating cliches. What those are repeated meaningless phrases that kind of sound like they mean something, but they really don't. Sometimes we think of it like bumper sticker thinking or semantic stop signs. They're actually intended to end discussion and to get you to accept something without questioning it. There are all kinds of everyday thought-terminating cliches like time heals all. So it goes. It could be worse. Look on the bright side. The sun will come out tomorrow. A lot of those are also toxic positivity, which not only end conversation, but invalidate people's emotions. When it comes to political cult ideology, a thought-terminating cliche could be something like, you'll find out. Again, implying that, you know, we have the inside scoop and you'll figure it out one day. Another thought-terminating cliche is fake news. Anything that you don't want to hear, you call it fake news. You're with us, you're against us. Simplistic phrases like, make America great again. It's a cliche. Sounds meaningful, but what does that actually mean? You'll hear thought-terminating cliches like, trust the plan, or no one can stop what's coming. And again, these cliches don't encourage conversation, they actually shut down conversation. They make you think that they have some kind of inside knowledge. Another thing that cult ideology uses a lot of is gaslighting, where somebody will say something to another person to make them doubt what they actually see. In other words, don't trust what you see, trust what I'm telling you. Unfortunately, when people are drawn into this kind of cult-like thinking, you can't rationalize with them, because at that point they're really not thinking rationally, they're thinking emotionally. And often the group itself will instill fear of leaving the group. And if somebody starts talking about that, then you're a traitor. Often, you have to be destroyed now. Unfortunately, as many of us have seen, as this type of cult-like ideological thinking has grown, many relationships are permanently altered or ended. It drives division amongst families, groups of people. And the likelihood of convincing somebody that, that they're deluded is really minimal. It's good to keep lines of communication open, but the reality is that you're not going to convince most of these people that they're thinking differently, because their thoughts are so enmeshed with their fears. And sometimes, especially when their obsessions or their rhetoric are offensive or never ending, people just decide that you just don't want to be around that, so you end up blocking them on social media, not inviting them to gatherings, and again, it creates further division. I'm really curious what you might think and what your experience might have been dealing with this type of issue. And I encourage you to leave comments in the comment section, and also let me know what you're interested in hearing about. If the videos are helpful, I encourage you to like and subscribe and sign up for notifications so we can let you know when more material is coming out. Until then, take care of yourself and take care of each other.